Our first speaker is Professor Krzysztof Piotr Skowroński from Opole University. Professor Skowroński has authored and edited numerous books devoted to American philosophy, and in particular on pragmatism and neo-pragmatism, Santayana, Richard Rorty, John Locke, and Hermann Sadkamp. Professor Skowroński is one of the forerunners of research in American philosophy in Poland and has organized numerous international events devoted to the topic. Polish philosophy is another important area of interest for him. Today, his talk is titled "The Individual and Community in Stoic Pragmatism." Professor Skowroński, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here and to see so many known faces. I mean, new faces, old faces. With many of you, I have been cooperating on numerous occasions, and I'm very grateful I'm able to be once again be able to contribute to philosophical debate. I thank Joanna Pieszga, who outlined Stoic pragmatism yesterday. So today I will just say a few words about this relationship between the individual and the kind of community or communal aspect of the individuality in light of Stoic pragmatism. And first of all, let me indicate that it is not a new theory. It's some kind of proposal of a stance rather than a theory. So Stoic pragmatism is not meant to propose a new theory of the individuality in a social context. First of all, it is instead a sort of proposal for to answer the question what to do when we have a philosophy as a public mission, and how this public mission could be realized within the framework of individual lives. So my interest, first of all, a few words about my interest. My interest was because I was cooperating with John Locke for some time, because I am a Santayana scholar, or I was basically a Santayana scholar, and John Locke is a very eminent Santayana scholar, and it was the first point of meeting. But later I realized that what John was proposing is a sort of more practical approach toward philosophy. And we share, and I will talk about it a little bit, we share this Eastern European, for those who do not know, John Locke has Hungarian background. We share this Eastern European sensibility, I think. I came to America for the first time, you know, when just after communism collapsed, and in Eastern Europe, and it was my very interesting experience to compare these two worlds, and I was saturated with its Stoicism in a sense, because previously I studied Henryk Elzenberg, very eminent Polish philosopher of culture, who is very often described as a contemporary Stoic. So before I started studying Santayana and American pragmatism, I had studied Henryk Elzenberg and his Stoical approach towards life, towards various issues. And while in America and then in Western Europe, I was all the time trying to confront these experiences of Eastern European person or post-totalitarian or post-communist experience with Western ideas and Western lifestyles, whatever. And when I started to be very much interested in Stoic pragmatism, the pandemic appeared. And it seemed to me that, oh, it's a good topic to write about Stoic pragmatism in the time of the pandemic. And then the war broke in Ukraine erupted. And it seems to me that John would agree that philosophy should do something about such things. I mean, philosophers or philosophy should deal predominantly with the problems of real life. I mean, not new theories, new theoretical proposals, but rather what to do in confrontation with the challenges of real life, where people are dying, you know, people have to leave, and so on and so on. So I'm really, nowadays, especially nowadays, it's hard time for some of my students, for some people around. We have a whole lot of refugees here. I am in Poland now, in Opole, which is the city where there is a railway from Ukraine to Berlin, and I commute to Berlin because I live in Berlin at the same time, and I commute with these, refugees, refugees meaning mothers and kids, because the males are fighting in Ukraine, and I have students who, whose fathers are fighting in Kiev now, and they are telling me that, that maybe tomorrow their fathers will be dead or something. These are really challenges. Actually, my friend, yesterday we were discussing what to do. He has in his house, he has 12 Ukrainian refugees, and thinking about how to get them work and the kids school. And it seems to me that John would have understood this type of sensitivity of people who are dealing with philosophy. Philosophy should do something about it. I mean, philosophy should do something about it, not just produce new theories, right? So it was my kind of sensitivity common with John Locke's sensitivity, with this post-totalitarian, post-communist, Eastern European type of approach life. And okay, and now sources. So the main source for Stoic pragmatism is the book Stoic Pragmatism, published by John Locke, and in 2012. And at the end of this is his kind of declaration why he does all this stuff. And he says, enduring daily bombings in the Second World War, the long Soviet siege of Budapest, and the subsequent Russian occupation provided ample opportunities for the development of latent reflective tendencies. And he goes on, he talks about unnecessary suffering, unnecessary violence, unnecessary death. And he concludes on the same page, it was easy for philosophy to find me. My experiences, Hungarian experiences, my experiences predisposed me to be interested in momentous issues. I wanted to know about God, the meaning of life, and the right comportment towards death. So we can see these are very Stoic topics. Anyway, this is the main source for Stoic pragmatists to study John Locke's idea. Stoic pragmatism has a lot of inspiration in Santayana, and in one of the basic texts, apart from Stoic Pragmatism, the book, there is John Locke's text published in a book that is a result of discussion in Rome on the occasion of Santayana Congress. And this text, this chapter is entitled, Was Santayana a Stoic Pragmatist? And he says something like this. He compares Santayana to late Roman Stoics. By the way, when I say Stoic or Stoicism, it means the Roman version, late version of Stoicism, deprived very much or substantially deprived of this metaphysical, ontological categories, and focused upon the ethics or ethical issues. So Santayana says, there is no denying that Epictetus's thought aims at instructing people in how to live well. Similarly, Santayana would have considered his writings of little value if they had captured the ontology of the world, but established little relation to the daily decisions of perplexed human beings. So this is a sort of link between Santayana and late Stoics, and even more in one of his texts about obligations of philosophers in a volume that I was blessed to edit, Practicing Philosophy and Experience of Life. He says something like this: philosophers ought to know better, speak better, and act better. So it is a sort of normative dimension of this philosophy, that philosophers, these are not just guys who should set new theories, but should convert these theories, or convert some kind of thinking about theories into the practice of life. That's why the title, Practicing Philosophy as Experiencing Life. Another book by John Locke's Medling, the title, take a look, The Virtue, which is a very Stoical term, the virtue of leaving others alone. So it reminds us of this individual aspect of people living in communities and the relationship between community and individuals. And the last source I would like to mention, I think up till now, the biggest collection of texts or essays about Stoic pragmatism is a section within the book that I was blessed to be the editor of the book, John Locke's Practical Philosophy. And it covers his whole philosophy, but a solid section within this book is about his idea of Stoic pragmatism. Let me add that my reading of Stoic pragmatism has something that John Locke did not take into consideration, it seems to me. That is something that is called the modern Stoicism or New Stoicism. Some of you must be familiar with the idea of, I don't know what is the scale of the popularity of modern Stoicism, but there are a whole lot of books, a whole lot of websites, very many clips on YouTube about Stoicism, but not historical Stoicism, but the updated version of Stoic ethics. And there are very popular authors like Pigliucci, Massimo Pigliucci. Lawrence Becker was probably the first scholar who wrote about this. His book, A New Stoicism, probably was this inspiration for this movement. But there are many other people like William Irvine. I will read the title of this book for one reason. I will tell you in a second. The title of William Irvine's book is A Guide to the Good Life, the Ancient Art of the Stoic Joy. And let's take a look at John Locke's book. In Love with Life, Reflections on the Joy of Living and Why We Hate to Die. It seemed to me very similar. And when I read this book, a whole lot of Stoic elements here. So let me say that a big inspiration for me to read Stoic pragmatism is modern Stoicism. So I read John Locke's at the same time studying the modern Stoicism and these books. Not only the books that we may say they are modern Stoicism, also such texts as very famous Martha Nussbaum's studies about Stoicism, for most perhaps inspirational on Musonius Rufus, because Musonius Rufus was the late Stoic who wrote about that women should also study philosophy, and there is a kind of tendency, I don't know how to say that, even such a name exists, Stoic feminism. That is, the contemporary feminist scholars, they study late Stoics, especially Rufus, just to say or to discover this egalitarian, cosmopolitan, perhaps democratic element in Stoics teaching, concluding that virtues that the Stoics were talking about, these are not male virtues only, these are human virtues. So it's very interesting, this modern Stoicism idea that, let me repeat, takes Stoic ethics and tries to update into the contemporary context, but does not refer to the ontological ideas like providence, teleology, logos, cosmos. And so this is a kind of stimulation for me to take a look at Stoic pragmatism as well. So what is now this relationship? Or there are what are the main points of this relationship between the individual and the social? Of course, the philosophy of American pragmatism is predominantly a social philosophy. It recognizes the the role of society in, I'm not saying creating, but in making individuals individual. And there are different mechanisms of this. And Stoic pragmatism will recognize these elements. However, it does not mean that individual is just a function of society in which he or she lives. So this tension and these proportions between what is the individuality or individual and what is social is here very important. And John Locke's tried to, or Stoic pragmatists, or John Locke's Stoic pragmatists tried to indicate this, that the point of departure of seeing this relationship is pragmatism. However, it is, as he says, it is pragmatism with the Stoic accent. Pragmatism with the Stoic accent. So what is this Stoic accent? It is a reflection that tries to answer the question how philosophy, which is public or social, I should say, comes from social arrangements of things, because it is tradition, it is education, it is sensitivity, it is sensibility, right? How it can be translated into making individual life better. And what is better? Better is a set of issues that an individual person or individual agent may use from the society around and create such a set of, using the Stoic word, virtues, that makes his or her life more meaningful. So very often John Locke in Stoic Pragmatism asks this question: what is the good life? What does it mean? And what is the role of philosophy in making life the good life, the life of the individuals, the good life, the meaningful life? And this Stoic accent within pragmatism should serve individuals to develop this. And there are many things. For example, knowing yourself is one of these things, but it is not only that, the Socratic idea, know yourself, but also spirituality of the present moment. He develops the idea that Santayana was promoting throughout his life, that spirituality or reflection about the present state, the present condition of the individual within the social context is a very important thing. At the same time, the ability of this individual to see the beauty of the moment, the beauty of the world around, independently of the sometimes terrible conditions in which individual lives. It is one of the techniques that makes it possible for the individual to, at least for a while, make his or her condition a little better in a subjective way. Next, very important, the knowledge how to use the opportunities that individuals have within Western societies. It seems to me that Stoic pragmatism indicates that Western societies have developed very many instruments that are very helpful for thriving of individuals. In other words, I think Locke would say that in Western democracies, at the present level of economic growth, there are plenty of instruments to be used, plenty of tools to be used by individuals, independently of the social strata, that when skillfully used, would make it possible for life to be meaningful life. And seeing these opportunities or recognition of these opportunities, this is something that Stoic pragmatists would recommend. How to see the opportunities that you can see around, first of all, to recognize them and to use them for your own thriving. This would be this very important element here. The common platform also for, in this context, is amelioration. As you know, amelioristic element in American pragmatism is, as Dewey said and Peirce, that most of the situations and events, when you have the events, it is possible to make them better. So the pragmatist optimism is not just a frame of mind that something gonna be better, but it is a philosophical conviction that maybe not all the situations we face, but most of the situations we face, we may make them better this way or another. It seems to me that Stoicism in the historical and the modern version would say the same, that independently of the situations or conditions you are in most cases, it is possible to make it better. In Stoicism, or in the Stoic part of this amelioration would be your attitude, frame of mind, way of thinking. So whereas pragmatism, the philosophical tradition of pragmatism would indicate the rearrangement or improvement of social conditions, the Stoical part would indicate amelioration as changing attitude, changing your own attitude toward different things. And this subjective changing your attitude may make the situation, your situation better and give you paradoxically more freedom. Stoic pragmatism does not treat freedom as something, freedom for freedom or something like that. Freedom is a category, of course, very important, but Stoic pragmatism understands that each individual has limited freedom. There are very clear limits of freedom. And it is important what you do with your freedom. So instead of having this approach, more freedom because of, or in the sake of more freedom, rather, it is a tendency or proposal to see how to use the freedom you already have, to use it into your thriving or use it into your development as a human being, independently of the condition in which you are. And now I'm not talking about drastic or catastrophic conditions. I'm not talking about war in Ukraine. I'm not talking about people who are terminally ill. I'm not talking about such examples. I'm talking here at this point about the majority of cases of regular people who live in Western democracies, for whom the access to different social tools is unlimited. For example, access to knowledge by means of the internet, for example. I can see that I have 2 minutes, I think, 1 minute or 2 minutes, I will finish. Yes. Yeah, so let me just say that for me, Locke did not mention that. It is my kind of contribution to Stoic pragmatism that I want to develop this powerful tool we already have had, that is the internet and access to knowledge and possibility to for philosophers to participate in public life. Herman Satkamp yesterday or 2 days ago was saying that Santayana's proposal, what to do for philosophers who are fed up with this university circumstances that are not so perhaps intellectually stimulating, what to do, Santayana simply left Harvard and became kind of man of letters. An updated version of this would be philosophers may quit universities and become bloggers or public intellectuals using the internet. We have better tools than before to have participation in public life. And I think it's also a Stoic idea, because Stoicism is not escape from the public life. Stoicism is also a way of participation in public life. And Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, these are guys who can be exemplary here. That's it. I don't want to, I want to be within the limit of the time. Thank you very much for your attention.